All right, everyone. Hey, I'm here with a good buddy of mine. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. How you doing, Taurus?
Very good. It's been a while since we actually reconnected, Kasim. It's been a long time. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring you on because, number one, I haven't seen you in a minute.
Been a minute.
Number two, I know you're really well diverse when it comes to the market on the commercial side, on the residential side. You've been in the business for quite some time. So when did you get into real estate? Let's start there. When did you get into real estate when it comes to just getting licensed and all that jazz?
Yeah, so actually the crazy story for me in getting into real estate, it all began because I got this job, engineering job, and it was in Newcastle, and
Cool.
I decided, okay, I want to get a house.
Yep.
And so I decided, okay, I want to buy a house because it's 2015, things are affordable. I got some money in my pocket now. I got some income. And so I just started, looking for a house and basically made an offer on the first property that I bought.
Okay.
And it was actually a flip.
Wow.
And I started looking into it while I was in the closing timeline.
Okay.
And found out that it was owned by like a foreclosure, and then it got some like investor bought it, and then I started getting really weirdly curious. So I actually called the other agent and asked him some questions, and I actually ended up talking to the seller.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, so how did you get this property? And he's like, oh, I got it at auction. And I'm like, what does all that entail? And I just asked him a billion questions. And then he told me about how he did the rehab and all this and that.
Yeah.
And I just like thought that was the coolest thing ever. And like, the lender, everybody, I was like asking them every question that, that came into my mind.
As engineers do,
As
right?
engineers do. Well, I just
Yeah.
liked it. I just thought
Yeah.
the process was so cool. Like I thought that like real estate was just so interesting. It like piqued my interest so hard. Like, I was asking like title and escrow, what do you guys do? Who are you? And like every single person, every part of the equation became something that I kind of had like just a little knowledge on, right?
Yeah.
And so all that stuck with me. And eventually, actually, I got laid off from my job.
Okay.
And I was excited. Like I was like so happy. I was like, it's an opportunity. I got to cash my 401k out without any taxes and all this and that, or penalties. And I was like, I'm gonna try real estate. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I'm gonna get into it, but I'm gonna try it. And so the first thing I did was actually I moved out of my house.
Okay.
And I started renting it out because I had a very good mortgage, and I was actually making a fairly good rental income.
So you're cash flowing.
Cash flowing right away on this property that I had. And I'd already lived in it for long enough, right? So I did that, and then I kind of started looking into just different things of real estate. So I tried to learn a little bit about wholesaling, about being an agent, and so I started taking classes. And I'm a knowledge seeker, I have a degree, I have a master's, bachelor's, and then I took some classes, and then I started taking classes at the community college about real estate.
Yeah.
And then while I'm in the class, I'm actually working on doing wholesaling at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually in the middle of my first deal while I'm in class.
Oh, nice.
And so I'm asking the teacher questions like, hey, what goes on line 9 of the purchase and sale agreement? And he's like, what? And they're like, are you doing something? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing something. I'm trying to do something.
Yeah.
So the day I passed my exam was the same day that I closed my first deal.
That's awesome.
So it was pretty exciting. It was very cool. Like, I was very hands-on, and like, I'm just a very hands-on person. So that's pretty much how I got in. That was like my first entry into the real estate world.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised because when I met you 5-6 years ago, maybe.
It's
been over half a decade ago. When I very first met you, you had like 101 questions for me too. I was like, hey, Terrace, I have questions on boom, 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 boom. I mean, you went over a lot of stuff, and I'm like, here you go. Here are the facts. I'm like, this guy's
That's what
great.
I love about you, bro. You just, it's funny is how we met. Do you remember actually?
I remember you coming into my office to back at the very first company that I worked for originally. I'm not going to say their name, but the very first company, I was with them for several years, and then you came into our office in Shoreline.
Yeah, so I actually remember. So I was at Whole Foods just eating, and this dude sits down next to me. He's like, hey, can I sit next to you? And And it was your brother-in-law?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was your brother-in-law. And then he asked me what I did, and I told him real estate, and he got really excited. He's very similar to you. Yeah. Very excited, and then I'm really excited, and we're just talking. He's like, bro, Like, you got to meet Terrace. Like, you
Yeah.
have to meet Terrace. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll meet Terrace. And
That's
so
awesome.
we started a group chat or something.
Yeah.
And so then I ended up pulling up to your
That's
office.
right.
And
That's right.
That's actually what started it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it's funny because Serge is a really cool guy. He's also has
very
that
nice
engineering mindset. And
Yeah.
He is my
That's where
brother-in-law.
we binded on that originally.
And I would always encourage like everyone in my family is like, hey, if you guys own real estate, get into real estate. This is the value of real estate. This is the value of compound wealth, compound growth.
Exactly.
It beats the market.
It does.
Real estate will beat any bond, any stock. It's going to literally, like you purchasing a real estate, any family purchasing a deal, it will beat anything when it comes to, because even if you look at history, right? If you go back to 2012, right? There were articles, literally articles, CNN, a couple of other big news articles came out and they're like, this is the worst time to buy. Dude, if I would have bought a deal in 2012, I would have
best time to buy.
It was literally the best time.
Yeah.
Because there's some neighborhoods, some areas in King County, Pierce, Snohomish, every home would have at least doubled.
Yeah, and
every home
quadruples in
quadruples in
like
some
the
areas.
Bellevue parts, like where
Yeah.
like some crazy shit happened.
So when people say, "Hey, when's the best time to buy?" I always like to say 5 years ago.
Yeah,
is the best time to buy. But it's always a phenomenal opportunity if you could afford the payments.
Yeah,
right. If you could afford that mortgage.
Yeah,
and you're still comfortably living to where you're not housebound.
Yeah,
and you can hold on to that deal. It's a big factor.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd like to tell people when it's the best time to buy is it's like when do your life circumstances align to it, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you're temporary in a city, right? Like you don't know what your lifetime goals are, like 3, 4, 5 years out. And just rent the nicest place you can find and live in the city, have fun, right? When you're like, okay, settled down, you have a job and it like makes sense. Yeah. And, you might have some family on the way, the kids on the way or whatever, right? It starts to make more and more sense when your life circumstances line up to it and when your financial goals are aligned to it too, right? Yeah. Like, I don't, when people have the money to be able to afford to buy and they have the life circumstances, then it's a good time to start looking. Like, that's when you should consider putting your real estate hat on, talk to the people talk to your lenders, talk to your agents, and just kind of dip your feet in the water, start deciding, does this make sense for me or is my job a contract job and I'm probably going to leave in the city, So you just have to look at your life. Yeah. And that's the way I think about it.
Huge factor. So you coming in, you were an engineer, get laid off, so you get your severance pay, and you're like, all right, getting into real estate, this is exciting. You get into real estate. What company did you start with, and how did you just really start building your team, building your brand, building just you, right, in the business? Yeah,
so that's a good question. So the way I started off was like with wholesaling, right? And the reason is that I wanted to work with people who didn't care what my background was. Yeah. They didn't care like how much experience I had. Yeah. Then that group is investors, and those are the same people that had bought my house originally, you know? They don't care where the deal comes from. Yeah. All they're looking for is a margin. And I have an engineering background, so the numbers came easy to me. Yeah. Right? So, I was able to figure out different ways to be able to find properties, whether it's on the market or off the market, using my technical background, with data and this and that to be able to find deals faster, analyze them faster, get the numbers done, and be more accurate, and also at the same time, I'm learning this whole time. And so, I started getting deals to investors. And one thing about investors is they're loyal, and one thing is that if you sell them a deal, you get to list the fixed-up house at the end. Wow. And so, after a compound work of trying to get these deals done, eventually I had those like 8 good listings, all at the beginning of the year. And everyone's like, whoa, this guy is like getting these beautiful listings. And so what really boosted me from that point was my community, So I'm from the Muslim community in Seattle, and I've been born and raised in Seattle. So I know a lot of these kids and this family since I was a kid. And like they know me, they know that I'm an engineer, they know that like I jumped into this thing, and they see that now all of a sudden I'm doing pretty well in it. And so they start supporting me immediately, right? Like people, kids I went to high school, college, all that. And then on top of that, the community trusted me with being able to help them purchase a building for the mosque in Bellevue. Wow. And so we put together a community deal on that. And we can talk more about that deal later on when we get to the commercial aspect of things. But that really boosted me because the kids that I know, the families that I know, they all really gravitated toward me because now they see that I'm doing real estate for the community, and so I became like this like community real estate agent.
Nice.
And those people have been my bread and butter since day one. You know, they've been the ones who refer me to their mother, brother, sister, because we got big families too. You know.
Yeah.
And everyone's doing good too. Like everyone's been established in this country for a while, and you know, from immigrant to immigrant, we understand each other's so well. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Big deal. So I want to touch on that. I want to touch on commercial now because commercial plays a big role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So wholesale, fantastic. Then you jumped into, so you went from just wholesale to listings, which is now basic residential real estate. Mm-hmm. You would do listings. You did a lot of business on that end. Then you jump onto the commercial aspect. Commercial's tough.
It's different.
Commercial's a different beast when it comes to getting into real estate. I mean, there's so many factors. Now, talk to me about, or just tell us your commercial side of this, like your history with commercial.
So for me, everything in real estate was brand new when I got into it. But I'm a learner. Like I adapt to circumstances. I learn, I read, and I like want to know everything about everything when I find out about it. And so the fact that they trusted me with this like hard commercial deal put this like heavy weight on me, because I carry the weight of the community with me everywhere I go. Like one of the things I believe is like, you can't succeed until you have a purpose. Yeah. And I didn't have a purpose when I first started. I couldn't figure out what it was. But then I started thinking back into the past and like what was important to me as a child, like what was I was growing up. And I realized it's my community, right? When I was a kid with no friends, you know, it was the community that was my friends. It was like, you know, we'd go on camping trips. And so I was like, you know, a student of the camping trips. And then I became the guy who was taking the kids on the camping trips, a Sunday school teacher and all that kind of stuff. So I realized my community became my purpose, and so I put the weight of serving that community top of my agenda, and so things started falling into place. And so with this deal, it was complicated. There was nothing in it that made any sense. So I had to first, like, there's two properties we're getting adjacent in Bellevue, and first one put together seller financing. And I didn't even, that was my first time doing it, but we got a good deal on that. And then the second one, we had So when Muslim people get a loan, usually they have this obligation to not to do interest. And there are lenders that actually support that through certain ways that they have it. But if you look into it, there's actually not a single commercial lending product that's conventional for that type of need, right? And so I had a friend who's involved in this company called Craft 3, and they're this special type of lender that does nonprofit loans. And so they're for nonprofits. And so, me and him were bouncing ideas, and he actually goes to the head of his company, and he's able to figure out this way to make it so that we could take fundraised money to get a conventional loan backed by the government that is commercial, that's interest-free. They used all the documents and paperwork to make it so that it fits the Islamic requirements, and they created a new loan product basically out of thin air, and now this is being used all around the country for community projects. And the crazy thing is that like there's a fundraiser needed, right? So your down payment is not one person; it's the entire community. It's like we had to do marketing for this fundraiser as well, and like that was part of the deal as well. And so like it was like everyone, some kids gave $1, some families gave thousands, some people gave like hundreds, thousands, this and that. But like we're able to put this together for this multi-million-dollar deal, which is eventually going to have like, right now it's like just a small little thing, but eventually it's going to be, it's going to have like basketball courts, it's going to have like prayer rooms, it's going to have, classes for the kids and everything. And so, and that deal was very complicated. It had environmental issues. So I'm up there trying to figure out, the lender's like, okay, well, this is going to fail. This is going to fail the loan. We did environmental study 1. It shows that there's going to be some groundwater issues. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this, but I put that on my shoulders and I'm like, well, who's going to solve this problem? Who's out in the community who knows like everything about this? And I'm like, okay, well, I have to figure that out. And so I started by going to the city of Bellevue. They pushed me to the Department of Ecology, which is the state. And then they linked me to this company that was involved with the cleanup. And then that person and I'm giving everyone the story of what's going on. And the lady finally gives me this contact for the head of corporate responsibility for cleanups at Chevron gas station or Chevron corporate. And I tell her what's going on. And these corporate types, they're not going to just say, "Oh yeah, we're going to
course not,
undersign this, and this." But she's like, "Okay." At this gas station, they cut out all their corporate responsibility for the specific project for the groundwater.
Yeah.
And so now the lender closes the loan and everything is done and dandy. And I'm like, I just closed this thing that I had no idea what I was doing, but
there we go.
I basically
Yeah.
solved like every problem that came, and I like solving problems. That's
Yeah.
like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. No, and that's you. I mean, your wealth of knowledge, right, when it comes to real estate, just any kind of real estate, right? I like to say commercial, residential, going in and doing, just kind of like what you started, just because I know how much you love to learn.
Yeah,
right?
I love to learn.
So everything that you've learned throughout the process, from wholesale to residential to commercial to right now, you're doing your own commercial deal. You're doing a pretty big deal right now, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're learning about that.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see where you're gonna be in like 10 years, bro.
Well,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I don't know where I'm gonna be in 10 years,
but the amount of knowledge and wealth that you're gonna build up.
Well, the thing is, I feel all the knowledge is compounding. Like if you look back, like I have my bachelor's in material science engineering, right? It sounds kind of useless in what I'm doing now, but it's still valuable to me. Like I have a good understanding of materials, right? So I know the woods, the ceramics, the composites, and all that stuff has a small little niche in real estate. Like I understand like certain little basic things that are helpful. And then I studied also electrical engineering and computer science at the same time. So all that actually is very useful in my real estate too. So I find myself to be a person who's always wants to be learning. Like the things that interest me now, it's crazy, is like law and other stuff too, because I ended up getting my designated broker license, and so so like I'm always trying to learn about something. So I don't know, but the thing is for me, like that long-term goal is to be able to do good by the people and the community and serve them, and I probably see myself as just someone who's just
helping the community,
doing as much as I can for just doing what I can.
No, and that's incredible, honestly. When it comes to, I want to say, because I know it's a pretty big plunge, right, going from tech into real estate.
Yeah, and I think it's an advantage, to be honest. I think it's an advantage because, like, it gives me control over, when I look at an Excel spreadsheet, it doesn't scare me. I'm excited. Like, I'm like, oh, this is so, like, messed up, and I can fix it. Like, and I can use that data to my advantage. Like, I've built tools that help me contact people. I've built tools that help me just with so many different things in real estate, and I wouldn't have that knowledge without being an engineer first, because like even when I'm comparing a value for a house, right, I look at it from a very statistical standpoint. So I'm making like histograms, I'm doing like, regressions, I'm like graphing things and then finding equations and then I'm pulling data to create models for those equations, like, basically like almost like what people call AI or like, machine learning. It's like, that's really just taking data and creating a model and then using that model to function something else. Yeah. And so it's like on a small scale, I'm doing that for everything. I'm like using that to calculate how much a house should be worth, what price offer we should make,
potential future value, or like figuring out like what you should do instead of what you should do, decision making. So it's really helpful in that. Like that's what I like about having that background. Yeah, no, and that's giant. So with that background, your hunger to learn, what else do you think as somebody, because people that get into real estate, oftentimes there's a lot of fear involved, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go from making 6 figures as an engineer to going into a sales type of job where you have to help families. What kind of mindset does somebody have to have? Because I know your first couple of years are tough.
Oh,
it's a freaking grind.
They're the worst, but they're also the best. They're the ones I look back with the most endearment.
Exactly.
Because I'm like looking at the struggle and I'm like, man, I miss the times where like, I was like, cooking this and doing that and like, trying to save every dollar. I had like these tricks at like Chipotle, right? Like I would go and get like double rice, double beans and 2 tortillas on the side and single meat so that I could use that to make 2 burritos so I could survive off of $7 a day. Like all these little things that you do when you're like trying to save up is it's sort of romanticized in a way. When you're out of it, but when you're in it, it's like you're in the trenches and like, you don't know where your next deal is gonna come from, and all of a sudden, someone gives you a call. You have to put a lot of faith in like whatever you have, like whether it's God or this or yourself. It's like for me, that's what it was. Is like it's a lot of faith.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that faith and resilience and hope,
Yeah.
you can't really. I mean, everyone's different, but you can't really live by fear. You
No.
have to live with hope and
Yeah.
persevere. And know that like the actions that you take are not necessarily what lead to the result of what you do. You drop a pen, hits the ground, right? That's it's easy. That looks like the action that made it happen. But really, in reality, like it's like you are building yourself up. So when you are out there door knocking or like doing all this stuff that makes you like, man, I did all this and I made no money, right?
Yeah.
What you've done is you didn't. Those things may not have created the deals that you may get in the future, but they make you more deserving to be the person to receive the blessings you're going to feel in the future, right? So
Yeah.
you put the chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
That's going to make it so that when people see you, the next person that sees you, you don't have to do all that. You don't have to push on them. They just see right straight into your soul, and they're like, "That's the guy I want to work with," right? Like one of my very first clients, it was this like really like wealthy buyer, right? And he saw me on like this like thing, and later on after we closed, I was like talking to him. I'm like why did you work with me? Like why did you pick me? I didn't have the experience. I wasn't the best agent. This and that. And he said the reason is it's like he's like, honestly, I just liked you. I just looked into you. I felt like you had a good like you were new. I knew you were new. I knew that there was this, but like my family felt comfortable. We wanted to work with someone that had that chip on their shoulder, had that like reason to want to do what they want to do, and that to me means everything, because that's like the people. It's a people thing,
No, we're definitely in the people business, right?
We're in
and
the people business.
People that get into any kind of business, it doesn't matter whether it's real estate, doesn't matter whether it's tech, any kind of my philosophy, any kind of startup that someone gets into, and you're building up a real estate business is a startup, right? You're starting up a book of clients. So any kind of business, fear is going to be there, right? Fear, it's always there. Hey, what's going to happen?
Maybe it's a good thing, and maybe it's a bad thing. It depends on the
I
person.
think it's great.
Yeah.
I think if somebody is struggling, and if somebody has a little bit of fear, if they're struggling, especially when they're starting out, and they're pushing themselves mentally through that struggle, they're building character.
And that's
they're developing themselves. That's a big deal. Because also then it's like, all right, you got to force yourself to have the discipline to do X, Y, and Z in order for you to propel.
Exactly.
That's huge. If somebody that's starting out doesn't have the discipline to say, you know what? I got to budget. Why? Because I got to invest money into education. I have to budget. Why? Because I have to invest money into what I believe in. You have to make a sacrifice, and that forces you to develop yourself, which is huge. People that are comfortable, like, again, if somebody's comfortable and they're chilling, and let's say they make decent money, middle class, they have 1 or 2 car loans, they pay their bills on time, and they have a few $1,000s in the bank, I personally see that as death.
Yeah.
Because they are not growing. Period.
Yeah.
So my philosophy is, what kind of person do I need to become in order to change the legacy of my life, really of my family and my kids? I got 2 little boys. I got 2 kids. To change my generation, my community, right? I'm in the Ukrainian community.
Yeah.
So to change my community, what do I need to do? Who do I need to become in order to
shut off the autopilot?
Exactly. There cannot be an autopilot unless you're growing.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you're in autopilot, everything is done. Like you're going to work, you're coming home, you're doing this, you're doing that, and everything feels so monotonous. And you don't feel any like need to change because everything feels comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And when you take the autopilot off, it's like you have to do everything manually. Yeah. You have to do every single thought matters, and that's when the growth happens. Is that like you start making choices that aren't like, when you sometimes get in the car and you're driving and you're like all of a sudden you start heading toward work or some random place and you're not going in the right direction. It's a sense of loss of direction. Yeah. And as soon as it's like coming out of the Matrix, right? Yeah. It's as soon as you're like, you're Neo and you're like all out of the Matrix, you're like, whoa, I'm in a new place. Like I'm in control of my life. I am the, bearer of my own destiny, and I control the keys and this and that. And it's like, it seems so like crazy, but it is like, it comes from difficulty. It comes from hardship. It comes from, humbling yourself. It comes from like putting yourself in a position where you realize that you need to do something because it's like the world depends on you.
Following the masses is never going to work.
Yeah.
Following what majority, That's crazy. You know, majority of families have 1 to 2 car loans.
Yeah.
Right? You know that over 80% of families have less than $1,000 in their bank account.
It's crazy.
So why follow the majority? The average. Why go through and just like you said, why be part of that rat race? Why be part of the matrix, right? Yeah. Why not take a step back and go, okay, what I want to do is I want to change the legacy of my life and really my family, my generation.
And that all starts with the why.
And all starts with the why, right? And then what can I do in order to propel myself, propel my business? Business is not for everyone. Not everyone is a business owner. But if you have the mindset of, hey, what can I do to be the best version of myself? And you work for a company, you will see exponential growth. You're going to see promotions. Why? Because you're taking the extra mile. You're going the extra step, right? You're present with your kids and with your family. People notice that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're present. You're still dating your wife, even though you've been married for over half a decade. Exactly. You're still going on dates. Big deal. Big deal. And who you are in the community and being that kind of person. And that's what I love about you, right? You're like, hey, who knows on that real estate deal, on that commercial deal, who knows all this real estate knowledge? Who else is going to figure this out? Yeah. There's nobody else that's able to help this community but me. So you start picking up the phone and making phone calls. You know, most people, even in business, don't have that kind of grind.
It's hard. Picking up the phone was probably actually the hardest part for me.
It's tough. Yeah.
I used to like...
It sucks, and that's
I used to hate it more than anything. Like, I straight up would like... you know, like have to mute the call in the middle of the call and like get my bearings back together. And like sometimes like just like, you know, I would be scared. And then I realized that it's like, you don't have to fear anybody. Everyone out there could be an asset to you. Everyone out there may want to help you. People are people, you know? We have empathy, we have love, and we can find, you know, when you come with people from a place of love, empathy, caring, you know, genuineness and tolerance and happiness, they'll meet you back. You know, people are not inherently gonna be against your mission. You know, people always talk about haters and this and that. Man, I don't think I have any haters. You know, like there's no reason to hate. You know, because again, all we give back is love. You know, it's like love is. I feel like it's like the hippiest way to think about it, but that's just my philosophy. Is like, be good, do the right thing. And things will happen the right way, and like just like. People will sense that in your voice, even if you're like shaking, even if you're like scared. Because when I have someone call me like that happens to me too all the time. Someone's talking to me and they, you know, they're not speaking with their chest. They might be a little scared, but I still sense that they're coming from a place of like they're just trying their best. Yeah, I'll like listen with all ears, you know. I'm giving them everything, and I might even help them. Like I'll say, hey, you know, you should have said this and that, you know. Like I'll give them the keys, and you know, those are the people that are listening. Those are the people who I want to help the most, because you might see a sense of yourself in them, and I get that so much. I've had like mentors, like I've had so many mentors, you know, and love, you know, and all of them gave me the time of day when they had no reason to, except for the fact that they believed in something that I believed in myself. Maybe I didn't even believe in myself. And they gave me the keys and the tools and the time of day. When you see someone who's giving you that time of day, when you're like, I don't think I'm worth shit, but they think I'm worth shit, then I'm like, shit, I'm worth way more than I think. I think. And so it starts giving you the confidence to just be like, break out of that shell and like really live up to their expectations, because, you know, we're people of like, we need that positivity in our lives, and someone to believe in.
That's huge. That's huge. You know? Like me, even when I got into the mortgage business, I had one really good mentor, and then I started out on my own. And then I found another mentor, someone that's been to this day still I reach out, we connect, we talk, and they're a great producer, high volume, big team. But on top of that, I know they want what's best for my business, because they started me off with just like you said, hey. Like, it's funny, when I got into the mortgage business and I was an assistant for the first, I want to say, year to year and a half, collecting documents, learning loans, getting licensed, and just learning the process, right? And then there was a person at that branch that I looked up to. He was a really cool guy. He actually introduced me to a couple of really, really, really good books. One of them was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. So I read
my mentor. He gave me that same book.
So I read that book, dude, and I was a young buck. I mean, I was like 20 years old.
Oh yeah, you were young.
Yeah, I was young. I was 20, and he gave me, and I read the book, and I'm like, this is incredible. And then I read it again, And then I went and I started listening to Darren Hardy, and then I signed up for a couple of his, like, it was like cheap coaching. It was like a couple $100, but you get to watch those free videos. So those $100 videos, and I started to go through that, and I'm like, this is incredible. And then that pushed me into getting into the position where, like, you know what, I want to work for myself. I can do this better than who I was with at the time. And then I went out, and then I found another mentor, but I had no business. I had no clients. Right? I had, hey, the only people that I knew in the business were of that person that I was working for at the time. And I'm not going to go and start calling on their clients or reaching out to their business partners. That's not who I am. That's not my character. So I'm like, all right, what do I need to do to build my business? Let me connect with the best and top producers in Washington State and just see what they do. Learn from the best. So I found one of them, got connected with him. I interviewed a ton of people, and we shared the same faith, right? I love Jesus. I'm a Christian. We shared the same moralities. He's married for 20 plus years right now. We shared the same cultural value and beliefs. I'm like, all right, this is somebody that I can learn from, right? And I was open to critical advice.
Beautiful.
Right? So, like, I played football when I was in elementary school, middle school, and high school. So when my coach said, Terrace, drop your shoulder, guess what I did, bro? I didn't ask why. I dropped my shoulder because I knew he had a good thought behind it. He knew that if I didn't, I'd get the wind knocked out of me, right? Which is a big deal. So I apply that same type of mindset to business. When I have my coach or mentor says, hey, Terrace, you need to do X, Y, and Z, or you're doing this wrong, or just like you said, we have a buddy like, hey, I recommend you do this, 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 or that. A lot of people, majority of people, unfortunately, are going to, a lot of them will get offended even. They won't even ask why. They'll be like, oh, well, what do you know? And this, and that. And it's like, well, okay. And there's a famous saying in the Bible, you don't want to give a pearl to a pig. Why? Because it's going to get messy, dirty, and they're not going to treasure it as valuable, right? Beautiful. So same thing with people. It's the advice that you want to give. That's why I love hanging out with guys like you. It's people that you're in community with, the love that you share, the love that you spread to everyone, and then you'll come out and you'll give them a little bit of advice, and people will take that in because they trust you and know you. Yeah,
exactly.
Which is
and
a
you
really
have to be able
deal.
to learn where to guard your time too. Where you got these
people
who ask for advice and. They may not do anything with it, and then you find the people who are gonna just like take that advice and take it to heart and actually act on everything you say. And the people that I've had like that, those kind of people, I try to be mentors to those kind of people, and they've gone and excelled. One person actually beat me out on a deal. We both made offer. I taught him how to make an offer, and I taught him how to win an offer. And his proudest moment was when he beat me on an offer. When we made the same offer on the same property. He was like, I beat you using your own knowledge. And I was like, that made me cry almost. I was like, damn, like that's the moves, I love seeing people take something and either build upon it or trust it and use it into their own system because they really value the mistakes that I make, right? It's like I'm a summation of all my mistakes and a summation of all my success. And to me, both are equally valuable, if not, it's very important to have that because how you learn is, everyone's way of learning is different. And some people need to learn by doing, some people need to be learned by getting taught. And you gotta have both for sure. So that's
100%. Kasim, I'll have two more questions for you.
All right, let's go.
Question number one. Predictions in the market. I know it's tough. That's a tough one. A lot of people don't like talking about it. I gotta know, where do you think the market's headed? This very interesting, especially with the banking thing that's going on right now. It's freaking insane, right? I don't want to touch too much on that because there's already a lot of stuff online about it. But where do you think the real estate market is headed this year and potentially next year?
Okay, so I'll give some experience, some based off of what experience I've seen. So last year, things got very soft, especially after the interest rates started going up. But at the beginning of this year, I had a listing, and it had like at least 100 different groups of people come through to the open house.
The market shifted.
And I talked to all these people, and I'm like, when did you start looking? When did you start looking? And none of these people, they all had agents already. They all looked like the brand new, first time looking. They're like, this was the first house. Half of them were the first house they looked at. And the way I saw it is that like people are sick of like this, like what's going on. They just want to get in, like they just want things back to normal. And once people, like, when COVID first happened, we all lived in fear, right? Like we wouldn't take our masks off. We wouldn't leave the house. But then it's like we're like plants trying to grow out of concrete, right?
Yeah.
Like eventually we're gonna pop out, right?
Yeah.
And people are going to adapt to the changes, and the changes are gonna adapt to us, right?
Yeah.
And so the way I see it going is that people are gonna be resilient. People are gonna start taking their masks off and going outside, going to restaurants, eating, hanging out with their friends, and that they're gonna start looking at houses again. They're gonna start buying. They're going to adapt to the new prices, and then the market will adjust and the rates will adjust, and I think that things will go back to normal.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna learn from our mistakes,
Yeah.
and that ultra fast growth, that unsustainability will have to go away. Where
Yeah.
people are like waving all this and that, like that is part of what create the problem. The dumping of money into the system,
Yeah.
the low interest, the this and the that. It's all going to work itself out because if you look at it, it's like we have hundreds of years of housing data, right? Or
Yeah.
100 years of housing data. If you look at it, there's times when interest was like 18%.
Yep.
My parents bought a house at like 12, 13, whatever percent.
Yeah.
They refinance every 3 years or 2 years and then they got the house, and like
Yeah.
people are still going to need a place to live.
Yes.
People are still not everyone wants to live in an apartment.
Yeah.
Not everyone, some people need a yard. So not some people are settled. Everyone, we're going to have a settlement of people in areas, right? Like Seattle's not a transitory place, right? And as long as Seattle stays in a place where like we still got the blue skies.
Yep.
Well, now we do.
Yeah.
We still got
Yeah.
them beautiful mountains. We still got them lakes. We still got the ocean. People are still gonna like this place, and people are gonna stick
There's
around.
a lot of tech here.
A lot of tech here.
Yeah.
And even at the jobs, it's like Seattle's there without the jobs. You take away the Microsoft, the Amazon, the Boeing, and we still got a beautiful city. And so, I think that at least when I look at the market, I really try to focus. I can't look at the whole U.S.
Yeah.
I can't even look at all of Washington. I focus on the Puget Sound
Yep.
because that's where I'm born and raised. I know this
Yeah.
area like the back of my hand. I know every street. I know every city. I've closed deals in like 30 different cities basically,
Yeah.
and all in Puget Sound.
Yeah.
Your Rentons, your everything.
Yeah.
And so to me, like I think that this area has something special to it,
Oh yeah.
and it's not it's gonna do well. And our big cities like the Seattles, the San Franciscos, the New Yorks, the Miamis,
Yeah.
we're gonna be able to get through this, but it's gonna be tough. People have to be tough, and
You have to be prepared.
and politically and all that kind of fancy stuff.
Financially.
That
as
has
well,
to
yeah.
all it has to all work together to
Yeah.
get the things back to the way they were. And
Yeah.
as long as we're taking care of ourselves and our people are taking care of our people, I think that it can go back to a reasonable, sustainable level. And part of that's hope, and part of that's just like looking at key factors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's
Great
what I
answer.
think.
Great answer. I
Scary
love
answer.
that.
It's a scary
No.
question because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everyone asks that question all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd say I have no idea. Sometimes I just say I can't tell the future for you. So
Yeah.
but I'll give them just my philosophy.
Yeah.
And give them the tools to make the decision for themselves,
Yeah.
right?
Which is
Because
fantastic.
ultimately it's everyone's own choice on what they want to do with how the market is, right?
Correct. I would personally rather be in real estate than stocks,
Mm-hmm.
than bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, even than crypto.
Yeah.
Right. I'd be in real estate other than holding
It's
my
a
money
tangible asset.
than holding my money in the bank.
Yeah, it's a
Right,
tangible
yeah,
asset.
so-
You're already
yeah.
living in it.
Yeah.
Land, land is land, and
Land is land, and nobody can create
Oh,
more
yeah.
of land,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there's only so much of it. Perfect. Second question for you, and the last question is: I know I didn't talk to you about this before. What's your vision for your business in the next 5 years? Like, where do you see your business? Where do you want your business to be? And what's your goal when it comes to growth?
okay,
Five-year vision. What's your 5
okay, so yeah, I mean, most of that 5-year vision is taken up by this development I'm working on.
Okay.
I bought a piece of land in White Center,
Okay.
and I'm developing on it right now.
Okay.
There's a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is what we're going with right now, which is 12 townhomes.
Okay.
Plan B would be like the more exciting version, where if I can get more capital together,
Yeah.
be able to build a apartment complex with commercial at the bottom because it's zoned neighborhood commercial.
Okay.
And so this is something I off market got myself, but
Beautiful.
is to get through this development, build something beautiful for the community, change White Center,
Yeah.
make it into a place where people can have their nice beautiful homes,
Beautiful.
and and that is the big half of my 5-year plan. And then with that, I should be able to have the capital to be able to be a little bit more free in real estate, where I'm not necessarily like hunting the deals. Yeah. I'm out there doing more mentorship roles because I've had a team before. I had like 5, 6 agents on my team, and it was really fun for me because they were all like smart, super hardworking people, and
eager to learn,
That's and eager to listen. And I was just able to give them guidance and advice, and they became monsters. They're straight up monsters out there. They're closing deals left and right. Like they're so cool. And I'm a designated broker, and I like being as like a mentorship role. So I see myself as serving the community, being there for the kids, and just kind of doing as many things as I can. Like, I've gone to elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and even like, UW, and talk to our future about their future and how they can get integrated into things. Like my parents were my biggest mentorship as a kid. Like my dad told me to save money when I was a kid, right? And that sounds stupid as a kid. Like, why would I save money when I can go out and buy toys? Like what am I gonna do with like this money that I got for my birthday besides? And so like, my dad taught me to value that. And then when I got to college, he showed me that this little bank account that I had, that I was putting in like $20 a week, at some point had enough money to pay for my college education. So I realized the value of money at that point. And so I wanted to give that generational impact to my community and my people. Like the people that I help buy houses, they're all people who, some of them are people that's the first house that was bought in their entire generation. And, it's like I want to teach and give people knowledge to empower them so that, they can do, because like when we die, right? It's like you're telling me about my 5-year plan, right? Like who knows if I'm going to even be here in 5 years. Let's talk about 50, 100-year plan, right? The 50, 100-year plan is to be able to create impact that lasts after we leave this world, to be able to help people and give them change that wasn't there before.
Yeah, and that's huge, bro. I like how you said your dad impacted you. Hugely, right? So for me, grew up with my mom. So my thing is, I want to say a huge impact for my little boys. So one thing that I'm doing for my little boy right now is I'll give him around $10 a week, right? He has to do a little bit of chores, this and that, but I tell him, I'm going to give you 10 $1 bills. Oh, you $2 you give away. I don't care who it's to. I don't care what it's. $2 you give away. $2 you save.
Beautiful.
And the rest you can spend on what you would like. Now, he's quickly learning the value of compound interest. So now he's getting smart, right? Because now he's
outsmarting you, man.
He's getting smart because now he'll go, hey, like his birthday was on the 13th. I got him what he wanted, this and that. He goes, oh, well, I want something on top of what you got me. And I'm like, well, just keep saving money, this and that. So he'll now go to the store with mom versus me, right? And he'll do whatever he can to save his money. So I'll give him the money, and I'll ask, okay, did you give away too? Yes, I did. Either it's going to be at church or to another kid, whatever it might be.
That's so sweet.
Now, how much did you save this month? So I want to encourage him to save and to give away, right? So he's able to learn about not just compound interest, but learn about, hey, okay, how is this going to look like for me and my family, especially when he gets a job? Because I know that, in 16 years or 14 years, he'll go out and he'll go and get a job. Which is, and then I need him to start understanding the value of saving money and the value of kind of like giving. That is huge.
That is huge. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
It's fantastic. So, bro.
Killer dad, man. You're such a killer dad. I appreciate it. I love it. I love seeing that, man. I'm so happy
it's a big deal for me personally. It's a big deal.
No, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. That's real life, man.
It's 100, and I encourage everyone to do that. Whoever has family, whoever has kids, you want to make sure that you're teaching them the right steps when it comes to giving away, when it comes to saving, and then their brains are going to think a little bit differently.
You're creating values. And just good morals and just good knowledge.
Big deal.
I love
so, bro. Thank you for coming on.
Man.
This is a big deal, friends. If you guys are looking to get into real estate, if you're looking to purchase a home, sell a home, want to learn more about looking at commercial properties, feel free, please, to reach out to Kasim.
I appreciate it.
He is a phenomenal realtor, very experienced, a wealth of knowledge, been in the business for, I want to say, almost a decade now. So the guy's a stud. Any questions that you have on the real estate side, please reach out to him. Of course, I'm here to help on the mortgage side, but we're here to add value to you and
go.
our community here in Washington.
Here we go.
Thank you,
All right,
guys.
man. Thank you.
Take
thank
care.
you, thank you.